right. So I am here. First of all, everyone, welcome to Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. I am here with Earle from the band the Swaggerlies. Glad to have you on the show.
Happy to be here.
And we're here because you have an album that's been released, I believe yesterday, called The Last of the One and Onlys.
Yeah.
I listened to it. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first non-live album that the band has put out?
Yes. Yep. Okay. Our first studio album.
There is definitely a much less complex way to say that. First studio album. There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
But yeah, I had the privilege of listening to it today, and it's awesome.
Thank you.
It's for those of you out there who are not familiar with the Swaggerlies, you should go pick up their album, The Last of the One and Onlys, if you're into sort of like a hard rockin', garage rock, blues. You know, the two things I kept thinking was how much I kept thinking of the band the Rolling Stones. Not that you necessarily sound like them.
Oh, nice.
But that's sort of the vibe I got. Like some of the songs were sort of bluesy, but it always had that sort of straightforward rock and roll feel to it.
Well, so cool. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, that's kind of what we were going for. So it's like we just like our guitars really loud and we like to play pretty fast. So
no, I felt like what I always love is when there are contemporary bands who I feel like are taking the baton from bands that have been doing a really good job for so many years. And now it's great. I can sort of add you to the rotation. You know, if I'm looking for, the way I sort of put it is I didn't feel like there were very many bells and whistles needed. It was just straight up rock and roll. So if you're I kept thinking this is the stuff that I would want to have on a jukebox. Like if I went down to a bar, I would just put this album on, and it would give me all. You know, it's got the hard rockin' tracks. It's got like the anthem tracks where everyone at the end of the night can sort of belt it out all together. In fact, I think the single that you guys have out right now was sort of the one that I thought, okay, yeah, at like 2:00 in the morning, this is the one that I want to have blasting, you know, at the volume to 11.
That's awesome, man.
But
awesome.
But yeah, now I know that you guys are in Seattle.
Yeah, we're just north of Seattle, is where our rehearsed space is. It's just like in Everett, Washington, about 20 miles north of Seattle. But yeah, Seattle is a catch-all from sure.
Yeah, I mean, my experience with Seattle is mostly still holdover from the grunge scene. I don't know if that's still kind of the predominant music scene there, or if it's.
It overhangs everything here still. It's still, you know, if you turn on the local rock station here, you're going to hear Soundgarden and Nirvana within, 5 minutes. You know, gotcha. It's still what Seattle's known for. And that's some great bands out of that era. So yeah, it's still.
Well, but it's great to know that there is diversity. Like you guys are, you could certainly be on the stage with any of those bands, but the music that you guys play is definitely more of like a hardcore rock and roll, I would feel. But it's great. It's all great music. It's just nice to know that there's still great music coming out of the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, there's so many good local bands here. I mean, you could throw a rock and hit a decent band around here. There's some of our friends are like some of my favorite music is some of the local music out here in Seattle. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, it's still alive and kicking out here.
That's great. That's been one of the silver linings of this experience with the pandemic, is that I feel like so many of the regional music scenes have become, much more, maybe not international, but like I feel like I have a better sense of what's happening around the U.S. It's great. I've been speaking to bands from like Nashville who are, I used to think, okay, Nashville, that's all country music, but no, it's like
out there, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I spoke to a band last year from Wyoming, so it's cool to see these like pockets of really great music, that I wouldn't have really discovered so much. But
Yeah. If you got to surface on any region, you're gonna find great bands. It's just a matter of getting heard is the hardest part.
sure,
Having a
sure.
conversation with a friend of mine, not really a conversation, but he just put out an album, local band out here called the Cheap Cassettes, and it's just they're getting ready to put out an album, and I got he gave me a CD, and it's like such great rock and roll music, man. And I said, man, you should be so proud of this. And he's like, yeah, man, it's just getting heard is the tricky part. And I said, yeah, that is. It's tough to get heard because there's so much out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my hope is that a couple of people will watch this video, and I will put I'll put the single on the end of the audio podcast, so people will at least get a chance to hear it, and
Oh, okay.
that'll be enough to whet their appetite to want to go seek out the other music because it's great. I mean, it really is great, and I mean, it's there. Like you said, there are a lot of really good contemporary bands, but so few of them you hear about, on the regular because there's so much music out there. So
Yeah.
allow me to cut through and do a lot of the digging for you. Go pick up the Swaggerlies studio album and get their live stuff as well. I mean, you may as well just get the whole catalog. That would be my.
Yeah, we
So,
kind of did it. We did it backwards, kind of. I mean, the first song we ever did together as a band was actually a Christmas song. We
gotcha.
did that. We did it for a charity called Music Cares. I don't know if you've heard of that. Where
I
they help.
have, I have, yeah,
Yeah, and we did it for a charity, so we decided to do a track, and the band kind of formed out of this one, goofy Christmas song we did, and then we did a live album, well, like a live EP. So we've done it, and now we're doing a studio album. So it's like we're doing everything backwards.
right. Well, it works. Whatever, that's the beauty is that you can do it however you want.
That's right. Yeah, it worked out. It took us a couple of years to make this because COVID happened. Right, we just
Sure.
got off tour, and we were going to go and do some more recordings, and then COVID happened. Everything got locked down. So it's been 2 years since we actually started making this album.
Right. Yeah, well, I'm hoping that things are beginning to lighten up a little bit. Now you can sort of push the album. I don't know if you guys are going to start scheduling any gigs to promote it, or if you're going to be playing it all.
Yeah, we've been playing for the past few months.
Okay.
We've done some regional stuff around Washington State and some local shows. We just had a CD release show, like a little pre-CD release. We're getting vinyl in 2022, but with COVID, everything's backed up.
Sure. Sure.
So we had a little CD release show at the place where we did our live album, Daryl's Live from Daryl's. We did a CD release show there a couple weeks ago, and we have stuff scheduled. We're doing a big New Year's Eve party here in Seattle. So yeah, we're keeping busy, but
Good.
it's mainly just trying to get people to hear the record.
Yeah, well, I can certainly put my name on it and say that it's a great record. There are a lot of I mean, I would put this on exclusively at the bar and just let it play all night, and
That's awesome.
you would get all that you would want. You have your anthem, you've got your ballad, you've got a bunch of heavy rock stuff, and it's all there. So it's really got everything that you need. Um,
Yeah, thank you for that. And we're all of a certain age, and we grew up listening to like these classic rock albums that had like you said, it had kind of that. There's a ballad on there. There's
sure.
an instrumental. There's a big, huge, fat rock and roll song. There's fast songs. So we grew up kind of listening. We came of age listening to that kind of stuff. So it's like, if we're going to make an album, if we're going to spend the time and the money to make it, let's try and make it along those lines. I mean, nothing's going to compare with the classics, but we wanted to have it in that vein.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because I grew up on sort of the tail end of that, so I think I recognized the not quite the formula, but I sort of recognized like, okay, they're tapping into having the ballad, the instrumental, the really heavy song. I don't know if there's a name for that, but whatever it is, it works really well. And it's sort of like a buffet, like everything that you would want is there.
Well, that's kind of what that's like I say, that's what we're aiming for. And the classic albums we grew up listening to, like you listen to your Back in Black or something like that.
Sure.
It's like every song, it's like, okay, this is like, there's no filler, and
Right.
And like I said, I'm not comparing our band anywhere close to that kind of stuff, but we wanted to go in that direction. Like, okay, I want someone to put this on and not take it off until it's done. It's only half an hour anyway, but I want people to like go, okay, cool. I'm going to listen to this whole thing, and I'm glad you said that. I appreciate that. So that's kind
Yeah,
of
well, that there were, like I said, there were a couple of things that hit me right off the bat. I mean, AC/DC was another band that I thought, that I thought of with regard to like, okay, this is the type of music, no frills, straight up
mhm.
rock and roll. You basically cut the fat off everything, and then
Yes.
you followed that sort of blueprint from those classic bands of like, we're gonna do a more of a quiet song here. This one will be an anthem. You can sing at 4 a.m. when you're at the bar with some friends, and everyone puts their arm around each other. Just I recognize it was so great because I recognized all these moments I'd had growing up, listening to albums like that. So it brought me back. It was sort of a nostalgic type of thing, and to hear that that's something you were considering, doing purposefully is great. Uh,
Yeah. Well,
I love if my hunches are right, if I can pick up on things. But yeah,
yeah.
it's certainly a great album. I'm eager to go back and listen to it again, but also check out some of the live stuff, just to kind of round out the collection. But for those of you out there, definitely pick up the Swaggerlies. The album is already out. I think you can get it definitely on Bandcamp. It's probably elsewhere.
Yeah, it's all streaming. All the streaming platforms have it, and it's on Bandcamp. And you can go to our Bandcamp and you get the live album, download the live album on the Bandcamp as well.
Gotcha. It's the last of the one and onlys by the Swaggerlies. I believe it was released yesterday,
Yep.
and yeah, and people can find you. I know you're probably have a social media presence and
Yep,
website
we're
and
all
stuff
over
like that. So
Twitter, Instagram. Yep.
cool. Well, yeah, it's a great album. I definitely wish you well in the new year, and I look forward to hearing more music from the band.
Well,
But
I really appreciate it.
yeah,
Really
yeah, of course.
kind
Good
words, man.
good luck with everything, and take care.
Thank you.
Okay,
Have a good one.
you too.
Bye.